Hi everybody, welcome to Weir Tennis, segment 2. Today we're going to talk about the slice shot. Underspin, cut, a backspin, whatever you want to call it. Now we're going to emphasize the backhand side because most people use it on the backhand side rather than the forehand side. When I was a kid, we all played one-handed shots. So a one-handed slice was an intricate part of our games. But today's player plays a two-handed shot and they swing mostly this way and create a topspin as opposed to a backspin. So what is a backspin? Well, I like to use these multicolored balls. It's when the ball is hit and it spins backwards. So maybe you can see here, but the ball is spinning actually backwards. What is a topspin? It's when the ball is hit and it goes forward. A backspin, the ball goes backwards. So how do we hit this backspin shot? Well, we start with the racket up. The handle's down, the strings are up, and we come down on the back of the ball, making the ball spin backwards. Now, the mistake that most people make when they hit the slice, and I was told years ago by probably one of the world's most famous coaches, that it's one of the hardest shots to teach and to learn. But like I said, in my day, we all used it. It was a pretty easy shot to sort of master. But today's player, being a two-hander, has a tougher time with it. They don't hit that many one-handed shots. So in teaching it, the mistake that I see is that when people come down to hit a slice shot, they have the racket on edge too much. And the reality is, when you start the racket up high, like I mentioned, when you come down to hit the ball, you want the racket to be about 10 to 15 degrees. So as I take the racket up again and I come down, I'm going to be right here. Again, when today's player or when my students come through, they often hit the ball on the edge, and you can see that's not going to work. There's it's all racket there. There are no strings. So it's hard to get that. So to hit the slice backhand, what we want to be able to do is, number one, change our grip a little bit. Two-handers have the hands on the grip, both hands on the grip. So when it comes to their backhand, how do they do this? The left hand will help with the grip change. So you can see my right hand is changing to a continental grip. What's a continental grip? Pretty much a shake hands grip. It should be most of your service grips or your volley grips, but it's the right hand moving counterclockwise just a little bit. So the hand gets changed. The racket comes up nice and high again, above the shoulder. We come down and hit it about that 10 to 15 degree position and finish the swing. So years ago, probably the two greatest slice backhands were a fellow named Ken Rosewall and Bob Lutz. And Bob Lutz was asked by the world's most famous tennis coach at the time, tennis teacher, how would you teach your slice backhand? And Bob Lutz said, I would take the racket up high, I would slide the racket under the ball, and I'd finish with the hands apart. So I've got a pretty good slice backhand, and that's the way I've always hit my slice backhand. I feel like I come through and I slide the racket. Well, you can see that's not the 10 to 15 degrees that we talked about, and finish the swing. So the famous coach said, as a coach, what's more important, to teach the feel of the shot or the reality? And of course the answer is whatever works, I suppose, to get people to understand it. Fortunately, about 3 months ago, I was able to have lunch with Ken Rosewall, the other great slice backhand, and I asked him how he would teach his slice backhand. He said he would take the racket back behind the ball and come on through and drive through it and have about that 10 to 15 degree tilt. But he stopped himself and he said, well, most of the pictures I've seen of myself, my racket's up and I'm coming down and hitting that ball and creating that sort of drive slice. So in the forehand, it's basically the same idea. You take the racket up. Again, I would probably use a continental grip, but you can use a different grip if you would like. The racket up, the handle's down, and again, you come down and hit that ball. You've got that 10 to 15 degree slant on the racket, and then you push through for your follow through. So what good is the slice? Why do we need the slice? Well, it changes. It's kind of like a slider in baseball. It changes the speed of the ball. So when you see Djokovic, two-hander, or Nadal, or somebody who's a two-hander use a slice, what they're doing is they're changing the speed of the ball as it comes through. It bounces a little differently too. You can use it running in toward the net. You can use it when you're extended way out to the ball. You can drop shot with it. You could lob with the slice. But one of the things I like about the slice as much as any is that you don't have to have this huge shoulder turn and stop and set up and hit the ball. You can hit the ball on the run with a shortened stroke. So it's a wonderful tool to have, a wonderful weapon. You know, in golf, I love both sports, but in golf you've got a bag full of clubs. You've got 14 clubs, and each club has its purpose, and they're each, you got to learn how to hit them all because you're going to have these weapons here. It's a bag of weapons. In tennis, we only have one. Okay, we've got to try to develop all these shots with our weapons. So I guarantee if you can develop a good slice shot, you have added another weapon to your game.